Good day and welcome to today's broadcast. Today on Friday, I wish to apologize that our Wednesday edition was interrupted by technical failure. I don't know what happened. I had very good internet, but I couldn't understand why it was disrupted. While on YouTube and on my profile, it was okay, but I think other pages suffered interruption. I hope we'll have a good broadcast today. Today we start with sad news. You are aware that various members of parliament have been jailed and they've lost their seats in many cases in circumstances that are not clear, that are not good. Take the example of Nixon Chilangwa and Ronald Kaumach-Totela for Kawambwa and Pambashe. They were not even available at the scene of the crime when that Mahindra was bent. They were not available. But the magistrate proceeded to jail them, and the High Court and Appeals Court have refused to grant them bail. So Nixon Chilangwa and Ronald Kaumach-Totela have since lost their seats, and they're currently sitting in jail, and bail pending appeal has been denied. This, again, is the same issue with Munia Zulu, who spoke from the precinct of Parliament. The magistrate refused to regard that as form of immunity because the regulation states that when you speak from the precinct of Parliament, they were speaking from the press center. That's part of the immunity because you are speaking from the precinct of Parliament. That testimony was disregarded. And secondly, for Munia Zulu, the matter was even more difficult because Munia Zulu received a tip. He's a member of the APNAC, the African Parliamentarian Against, it's a network against corruption. And he received a tip that two ministers and the RDA chairperson had received a bribe of over $250,000 to facilitate for the construction of the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway. And he went and made this public, alleged that the two ministers and the RDA chairperson had received $250,000 as a form to allow that PP project to take off. Instead of the authorities investigating the allegation, instead of the authorities establishing the veracity of the information that Munia Zulu received, we saw the President Hakainde Hichilema, just the following day, go to the media and says, my ministers, I know them, they have integrity. Charles Milupi and Msokotwane are men of high integrity. They can never be involved in that. And he said the mischief of Munia Zulu, be pursued, and encouraged the ministers to sue Munia Zulu and that will be punished. And that's what happened. The investigation and the allegation that the two ministers and the RDA chairperson received the bribe has never been investigated. In fact, the tables and guns were turned on Munia Zulu, who's currently sitting in jail, again denied bail pending appeal, even if he's allowed to. So today we had the misfortune of Honorable Maureen Mavonga, very wonderful young lady, very wonderful young parliamentarian who is a member of parliament from Mfuwe in Impika. And she's been jailed because at a press conference where we're demanding the release of JJ Banda, Honorable Mavonga reacted to the two ethnic reports that were trending at the time. Southern Province youths, UPND youths, said, we will not allow Edgar Lungu to come to Southern Province. This is not his area. We will not allow him to. And then you had youths from Northwestern Province that were even more vile. They said they will not allow Edgar Lungu to come back. And in fact, they asked President Hakainde Hichilema to surrender President Edgar Lungu to them so that they can both circumcise him and take away his life. In their report, they were condemning those remarks. And they said, do you need to discuss issues of tribe and numbers? They were condemning the talks, but instead they're the ones that were picked. They're the ones that were charged with sedition. So let's look at the day's event today. in which Honorable Maureen Mavonga has been imprisoned with 8 months and penalties of 4,000 units. I don't know how much that translates to, but 4,000 penalty units were given to Honorable Mavonga, and we know she will appeal because she was acting and reacting to these attacks from these youths. Where are my videos for Honorable Mavonga? I have to look for them. But this is what she was reacting to.
It's really, we are learning with shock that a former president in the name of Edgar Chagwaru, who terribly failed to manage the order and the welfare of this country, is busy manipulating himself to have issues of thinking he can come back to this country. Zambians are not docile. Zambians will never be taken back to areas where they cannot access freedom in the market. Zambians will not be taken back to an opportunity whereby even just boarding a bus wearing any party t-shirt was a crime. Zambians will not be taken back where meal allowances at the University of Zambia was scrapped off. Zambians will not be taken back where even just shaking a hand with someone who belongs to another political party, it was a crime. Lungu must watch his steps. Yes. He must watch his steps. I think Lusaka province and other provinces, you've tolerated that idiot for so long. Bring that man to Northwestern where we practice circumcision so that we take him into circumcision. We take him into circumcision. We are not here docile. People, the civil servants, we are not working. Because under the civil service there was a serious division. Ethnicity was the code of the day. Promotion was just wanted on because you belong to a certain political party on ethnicity. Is that what Rungu thinks he can take us back to? We will circumcise him. Yes. We are appealing to government. If there is opportunity for Rungu to come to Northwestern, please do it quick. Yes. Bring him here. Yeah. Bring him here. So that we teach him a lesson. Yes. And he will remember the time his mother cried when giving birth to him. Yes. We cannot be doing things like cry babies in a country. Who is Rungu? Who does he think he is? Does he want Zambia? Does he want Zambia? Please, we ask Mr. Rungu to consider himself as a statesman or face proper circumcision that he has never witnessed before. He will see us. And to the youths in Lusaka, we are appealing to you colleagues. Yes. Wake up. Wake up. If you don't have money power there, tell us, we come. Yes. As a province, we are very much ready to coordinate and bring the youth there in Lusaka. So that we teach that thug a lesson. You cannot belong to a party of a behavior and is busy calling himself as a serpent. You can be a serpent, but there are egos in this country. We are able to grab you off from the ground and take you in the high sky. We fight from there. Rungu, wherever you are as you are watching this is Kokera Moses. I understand very well where you want to go. If you want to die from the hands of President Hakainde Hichilema, please spare Hakainde Hichilema not to kill you. Allow us to kill you. Allow us to kill you so that we slaughter you. Thank you so much, Chair. Okay.
The words are shocking. And both Maureen Mavonga, Munia Zulu were shocked by these words. There's even another video of Southern Province UPND youths also issued similar threats. Now, what is shocking is the Inspector General of Police, Grafio Musamba, has never punished this Chikokera, the UPND youth from Northwestern Province. He's never been arrested for hate speech, for ethnic talk, for threats against the life of the former president, for insults, criminal defamation. They've never touched him. The police have refused to arrest Chikokela. In fact, Chikokela himself has boasted that there is nothing the police can do. But what do they do? They pick the people that responded to him and put them in jail. The selective nature of the law is what we are condemning. If Maureen Mavonga said something wrong, what about this fella? You've heard for yourself. And, when we say we are dealing with a dictator who's not willing to vacate office, even if people vote him out, this is what we mean. He's applying the law selectively, jailing members of parliament. So far, under very, very suspicious circumstances, Nixon Chilangwa, Ronald Kaumachitotela, Jeje Banda, Maureen Mabonga, Munia Zulu, all these seats in a very short period of time, taken away from them unfairly and locked up and jailed. And the president himself is very clear. Listen to him. Just listen to what the president says.
Long way. This party is a mature party. 23 years in opposition, resilient. We suffered the most brutality in this country. Now we are here. People think they can push us out easily.
Thank you. Just give me feedback if you are able to watch and if you are having any problem. So the president has vowed that he's not giving up power anytime. He has vowed that, they were in opposition for 23 years. Even if they failed to deliver now, he's not willing to give up power. And that should worry you. That should worry Zambians. It's not the number of years you were in opposition. It's how you deliver for the people of Zambia. Are you adhering to the constitution? Have you brought development to the people? Those are the issues that you have to deal with. There have been some updates, I think, on a few things that we've been discussing before we go to the main topic of presidential aides or advisors, and we delve into detail how dangerous the statements by both Clayson Amasaka and his other colleagues are. The scandal in the health sector. The ambulance to date have not been delivered. I think we've been following up this issue. Let me just update you. The ambassador from the US was very clear about the systematic theft of medicines and medical supplies. There's just this huge corruption in under Ministry of Health, local government, and others. Take, for example, the case of the ambulances, $13 million spent. The contract was single-sourced. The contract under direct bidding. Your franchise holders like Toyota and Nissan, they were bypassed to someone who is unknown, who's never delivered any vehicles of that magnitude, 156 vehicles. They said they were doing it in the interest of local content because the Zambia Public Procurement Authority encourages, if you are spending CDF money, it has to be local, spent to local people. But it ended up to not even to a local company. One of the companies, S Pharmaceuticals, is not even, is owned by foreign nationals who's actually not even a resident in our country. And that foreign national actually has another set of contracts under ZAMSA, 7 of them, including the one for ambulance. Do you have to be a scientist to see the corruption? So these ambulances, 156 of them, were procured in 2023. They should have been delivered by June 2024. They were not delivered. An extension was given for 6 months up to December 31st. They were still not delivered. Only 11 had been delivered. We saw another set come in January, and the deadline was 31st May. We are looking at 31st May. But this is a story of the ambulance.
Government is in the process of procuring 156 basic life support ambulances to be distributed to all constituencies. The initiative is a move to address the shortage of ambulances across the country. However, social media speculations have indicated irregularities in the procurement process, prompting government to make clarity. Local Government Permanent Secretary Nicholas Piri has explained the process.
A procurement entity may, in addition to the circumstances provided under Section 42, use limited bidding for goods, works, or non-consulting services where there is a need to achieve specific social objectives by calling for participation of local communities or target group. And this government has a specific social objective to empower Zambians, and Zambians first.
Information and Media Permanent Secretary Tabo Kawana is disappointed with discrimination against citizen bidders who operate in communities.
We find this to be an insult to the dignity of the Zambian masses living or conducting businesses in compounds, and we distance ourselves from such an insult. As government, we will continue providing opportunities to all citizens, regardless of where they live or conduct their lawful business within the Republic. The nation will see more tenders of supply of goods and services being awarded to citizen bidders, as long as they meet the requisite requirements for the supply of specified goods and services.
And Health Permanent Secretary for Donor Coordination, George Sinyangwe, says no donor has withdrawn from supporting the health sector.
As a matter of fact, there are signals of increased support to the sector because of our increased and positive performance on various portfolios within the sector.
Mr. Piri says the contract runs for 18 months and has assured that all ambulances will be delivered within the time frame. Wilson Mulinda, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
So, despite that robust defense by the two permanent secretaries, it all ended up in a lie. We still don't have the 156 ambulances. The irregularity still stands. The procurement method used was not emergency in any way. They used single, direct bidding, which is single sourcing. They overlooked the franchise companies, Toyota, Nissan, and others, Mitsubishi, whoever is in the country, and they even ignored manufacturers. They went to this Tuntemba. One of the suppliers has a small office, one room at Garden Compound. And you wonder his capacity. They said because these were CDF funds and they were therefore obliged to give it to local companies. It ended up not to be a local company. It's actually owned by foreign national, we wonder what the SEC are doing about this matter. We wonder what the SEC are doing. Another matter that we have to go to is our dear brother, Victor Nyasolu, has been making, news. He's supported the position of the U.S. ambassador that medicines and medical supplies have been looted and that there's been huge acts of corruption under Ministry of Health. This is a gentleman who was Director General of ZAMSA, where the 61 trucks are under investigation. He's been singing and giving us details of contracts, how State House was involved, how State House used to make phone calls, how State House kept on saying, interfering in these deals. Sorry, I put a wrong caption there. Again, this man stated how he has responded to State House on how they were interfering with procurement. And this has formed the basis of our talk today, because Victor Nyasolu has confirmed what everyone has been saying, that there is interference with State House officials acting very corruptly. And there's this debate about their role. So we'll be discussing that matter very, very shortly, about who the advisors are, what is their role. I'll start with my dear brother, Clayson Amasaka. Clayson Amasaka is a chief communication specialist at State House. When these two stories broke out from Victor Nyasulu, former Director General at ZAMSA, who exposed that State House was interfering in this procurement, our brother issued a statement on his page, Clayson Amasaka, justifying why State House officials would call entities. He says if there is inefficiency, we have a duty to call and we must follow up on behalf of the president. And on that news yesterday, he was supported heavily. He was supported heavily by former Secretary to Cabinet Leslie Mbula. I was personally disappointed with Mr. Leslie Mbula because Mr. Leslie Mbula is former Secretary to Cabinet, one of the longest standing civil servants. If there is anyone who knows the hierarchy, integrity of the civil service, it is him. And I said, Abakala Mbaba, why? Ushenangule supporter by UPND, do you have to abandon your professional standing? So, in my view, Honorable Leslie Mbula was affirming illegal acts of presidential advisors. Presidential advisors are not involved in procurement processes. They should not interfere with work, the reporting structure, and the hierarchy of ministries, provinces, and state agencies. The assertion by Clayson Amasaka that presidential advisors have a duty to drive national development against bureaucracy, it doesn't hold water, and we'll bother to explain why. And Honorable Leslie Mbula should have helped Clayson Amasaka and put him in his place, because you have the cabinet handbook. Presidential advisors are not involved in procurement. In fact, you have to look at cases of presidential advisors that have been prosecuted or fired for that very interference. You have the Public Procurement Act. You have civil servant guidelines and the code of conduct. That puts you in place. You have to respect structure, hierarchy, and presidential advisors are around the president. Their role is to advise the president. Can they do monitoring and evaluation? We'll discuss that, because it's what they call presidential delivery unit. But your presidential delivery unit should be cabinet, led by the Secretary to Cabinet. We can draw lessons from the Westminster. You know, we draw our governance from both Westminster and presidential system in America. Westminster under UK, presidential system under the US. We have what is called a hybrid. Like Singapore and others, you merge the best practices to bring that together. And presidential advisors are support staff to the president. You know, they're aid to the president. If you draw good examples from the US, UK, Singapore and others, you realize that the presidential advisors have their own role. If governments are not working, if you find bureaucracy, you are failing to overcome it, it's not your role to dismantle it, overcome it, or jump over it. No. There are mechanisms you can do to ensure that you deliver. Let me just draw some facts that I had put together when I was putting up this crucial discussion. Let's not underestimate the presidential advisors are very, very important. They are very, very crucial. They play a key role in the president delivering his mandate, his manifesto, his vision, and, you know, the good services and works that he promised the people of whichever country that he is elected to. Remember what they say. They say a president or a leader is as good as his advisors. If he has bad advisors, the president turns out to be bad. If he has good advisors, the president turns out to be good. So the president has, you know, the advisors have a special role in the presidency. A leader's effectiveness is significantly influenced by the quality of the advice they receive and the decisions they make based on that advice. In many cases, presidential advisors in Zambia have been known, it's a notorious fact, they abandon their role as advisors and begin to masquerade as presidents or carrying the weight of the president. They pursue personal and private interest. They are overbearing on public institutions. They subvert the cause of national interest while perverting a lie that they are pushing the agenda of the president, thereby abusing the name of the president. When there is recruitment, they give a call. No, the president wants this director general, or this CEO of ZMBC to be the one to be appointed. But there's an existing constitutional structure. ZMBC has a structure, a board ratified by Parliament, then Parliament hires a director general. Why would you interfere with that process? That becomes criminal. And you are using the name of the president. You begin to say, no, that one is PF. She can't, or he can't have that job. You have broken the law and you can be prosecuted for it. Like I said, many have been fired or prosecuted for that very reason of interference, pretending that they are speaking for the president. If the president has his faith, why would he appoint a board for ZMBC or for ZPP or ZESCO that he doesn't have faith in? Why would he appoint an IDC board that appoints other boards, the other boards that then recruits, for example, a CEO? Why would that, at that late stage, attempt to interfere with that process? It's just bad governance, and that's why I was very disappointed with Honorable Leslie Mbula. But let's go to the generic stage. In the recent statement made by State House Chief Communications Specialist Clayson Namasaka, and then about Special Assistant for Policy and Implementation and National Security Advisor Dr. Lawrence Mwananyanda, Clayson says it is right for Mwananyanda to have made the call to ZAMSA direct about procurement. In my view, the role of presidential advisors is, first of all, to provide expert advice in their various portfolio. If you are economics, if you are health, if you are investment, if you are press, you give advice or do your duties around the defined portfolio. And you sit with the president every morning and give him an array of issues according to your portfolio and according to the information you'll have gathered. The president runs a government which is a complex structure, but the Constitution has helped us. The first line of advisors are cabinet ministers who are provided for in the Constitution. Presidential advisors are not. Cabinet is the first line of advisors to the president. The president governs with cabinet ministers. And that's why you will have the attorney general sit in that government, in that cabinet, as an ex-official. Even presidential advisors can sit because they are aides to the president. They are aides, like we call them, presidential aides. They are aides to the president. Like PA. A PA can walk in any board meeting, bring information for the president, type material, bring that file that the president wants. She can do that, or he can do that as a PA. The presidential advisors are not necessarily PAs, they are aides. They are very specialized in their fields, whether it's economy, whether it's whatever role they play. I have seen a huge debate both in Kenya and Nigeria. In Kenya, do I have let me see if there's the matter on Kenya's presidential advisors. Let's see what they're saying about Kenya.
Tonight, it has emerged that some of President William Ruto's advisors are on the same pay grade as cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries, earning at least 1 million Kenya shillings a month in salaries. Appearing before the National Assembly's Administration and Security Committee, State House Controller Kato Olemichito defended the spending on advisors, saying they had helped the president to make sound policy decisions on, among other issues, the reduction in the cost of living. Emmanuel kicks us off with the following report.
Even as questions linger about the ever-increasing number of President William Ruto's advisors against his promise to reduce the tally by half last year, the details of the cost of hiring the team of about 20 members has remained under the wraps until Wednesday. State House Comptroller Katole Metito telling the National Assembly Administration and Internal Security Committee that some of the advisors are paid as much as the cabinet secretaries.
It is good to shed light to this committee in terms of how much each advisor is paid. The range is actually some are at the level of cabinet secretaries and others are at the level of the PSS. So, you know, I could say the lowest is at job group T. Yep. TUV.
A CS is paid a basic salary of 594,000 shillings, with allowances including housing, medical and transport, pushing the number to over 1 million shillings a month. A PS, on the other hand, is paid a basic salary of 491,000 shillings, with the allowances also stretching the payslip near the 1 million shilling mark. The employee on job group T, U and V earning upwards of 170,000 shillings. Ole Metito explaining the disparities in the salaries paid out to the team.
They are based on what job groups they come in, and their speciality as well in terms of expertise.
Questions have also arisen as to the need of the advisors, some who are rejects from cabinet, with their roles often overlapping.
The policy, the model of economical transformation is really working, right? We know where the shilling was when the new government came in. We had an exchange rate of 162, we had 128, we had the price of local commodities like foodstuffs. And all those policies being enacted, they emanate from these policy advisors and the research they do
for the national anthem.
Parliamentary records have shown that the cost of onboarding the advisors gobbled up to over 1 billion shillings annually, with the cost rising with the addition of advisors. Although the court slammed brakes on the chief administrative secretary position, pundits have argued the president has replaced them with advisors. This as the budget of senior government officials, including retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, ODM leader Raila Odinga, former Vice Presidents Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudi Awori, who served during retired President Mwai Kibaki's tenure, suffered significant budget cuts. Kenyatta's office, which was hard hit, will lose 94.6 million shillings from his 300 million shilling allocation in the budget relocation for the next financial year. State House has been allocated 8 billion shillings in the financial year beginning July. Emmanuel, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The job you held at State House, is it a 8 to 5 kind of job?
Well, I mean, it's a job which you're on call throughout. I mean, I used to get calls sometimes 01, 02. Sometimes I'd sit with the president to wake up to 01, 02. I never had my private life. It completely got cut off. My life rotates around the president. And because also he believed in me, I believed in him, he gave me a lot of opportunities to work with him, to be able to attend even meetings that are outside the normal working hours. He allowed me to attend even private dinners, which he had with his guests. So that really took away my private life. But with hindsight, I mean, it was a good exposure.
Yeah, thank you. And to put Dixon Jerry was on a podcast, and I picked those views. He has since issued a longer statement where he has also said you have to tread carefully. Yes, you have a duty to pick information. You can call any province, any district, any ministry, any minister, any constitutional office. But what is the nature of your call? Is it a call of interference or information for the president? Are you influencing decisions such as procurement decision? So the nature of the call matters. So the blanket defense by Clayson Amasaka doesn't hold water. Zambia runs a hybrid system drawn both from the Westminster and USA model. We have a constitution, like I said, that has a hierarchy. The Westminster model and the US presidential model are two distinct types of governance. In the Westminster model, originating from UK, it's a parliamentary system where the executive, who is a prime minister, derives power from the ability to command support of the majority from the legislature, from parliament, and is therefore directly accountable to parliament. On the US presidential system, on the other hand, is similar to Zambia. It features a president who's elected directly, independently of the legislature, and has a more direct relationship with the citizenry. In our case, our president runs government through a cabinet he heads. This is his first and primary line of advisors. Cabinet decisions and policies are then implemented by the Secretary to Cabinet and the team of bureaucrats, permanent secretaries, directors, heads of institutions, heads of constitutional offices in ministries, provinces, and other support staff and professionals. At the disposal of the president are also heads of specialized state agencies such as the National Defense and Security, our Army, Zambia Air Force, ZNS, and their heads, and law enforcement agencies who are preoccupied with issues of national peace, national security, and public order. The president has an in-house staff. As you saw the debate in Kenya, is provided for in the constitution. In Nigeria, the president has to take a list of his advisors. In the US, the president has to submit his list of advisors to Congress for approval. In Nigeria, the president has to take, and they are limited to 20. In Kenya, when there was this Gen Z a protest, as you heard in the report, President Uhuru Kenyatta said he was going to reduce the number from 20 to under 8. Well, he has proceeded to appoint them to 20 and have even elevated their salaries. They are now getting the same salaries as cabinet secretaries. Cabinet secretaries in Kenya are ministers. In Zambia, over the years, there's been an attempt to elevate the positions of these presidential advisors. Now they are at the position of deputy secretary to cabinet, not all of them. The special assistants are. These ones who call themselves chief, these are not at the position of special assistant, who are at the who hold a salary scale of a deputy secretary to cabinet. Then the president governs our country with other wings of government. The judiciary, that's why the president, in conjunction with the Judicial Service Commission, appoints the Chief Justice and the head of Chief Justice and Deputy Supreme Court judges, requiring ratification from Parliament, Constitutional Court judges, and the legislature. The president appoints the Speaker, although the deputy speakers and clerk are the preserve of the Speaker and the Parliament itself. What causes this nightmare? I don't know if I have the video of the president crying that, look, it's hard to govern. Leadership is very hard. Do I have that video of the president saying governance is very hard? I might have the video of the president crying that when he was in Monze at the Docas rally, he says governance is very hard. It's not simplistic. Yes, it is hard because this structure I've defined is complex. You need to understand it for it to deliver. This bureaucracy has to be administered. It is governed by a governance system. It has a hierarchy. It has a structure. It has specialized roles. And it requires that you adhere to the rules and procedures. You've heard the president at press conference bemoaning that they tell him, no, I don't have the time to do this, to do that. He says, no, we need to deliver. Because he has a timeline of 5 years. Civil servants do not have that timeline of 5 years. And he thinks that the civil service is standing in the way. And that's why over the last 2 years, he spent a lot of time removing the civil servants because he thought they were the ones that were wrong. He thought that they were loyal to PF or to previous government, when in fact not. He should have just understand the bureaucracy he's sitting on. Because if you don't understand it, or if you want to use the civil service for nefarious activities such as corruption, or you want to use it for nepotism, you want to use it for wrong things, you will find that it's a nightmare. Because civil service, civil servants, public servants operate under a code of ethics, under a code of guidelines, under circulars that are usually issued by the Secretary to Cabinet. Under the law, they are guided by the law. So if you want to use it for corruption, you find roadblocks. If you want to jump over recruitment processes, if you want to jump over procurement process, you find that this bureaucracy is standing in your way. The bureaucracy has been set up not to promote red tape, which is inefficiency, but to promote the adherence of procedures. Some may say that it breeds inefficiency, but that's how corruption is prevented. That's how you build accountability in the system. That's how you establish a culture of compliance, by introducing checks and balances, by ensuring that it's difficult for individuals to have their way. They have to follow established guidelines that promote transparency, that promotes efficiency. For Clayson Amasaka, he says he can just call anyone and they will keep on calling. He may have to familiarize himself with the recent judgment of 2023, where they said you have to put your instructions in writing. So those phone calls you're harassing people, you better put them in writing. I'll look for that judgment quickly, cite the authorities, and probably put it before we end so that people can see what we are talking about. And while president's advisors do not have formal decision-making authority, because they can just call you, at our president, no letter, no evidence, and you, the junior, have no way of getting to the president to understand if the president is telling the truth or not. You have no mechanism. And they may abuse their proximity to the president by lying that the president says you put this one on the board, or you implement this one, or you give this tender to this one. That you are dealing in the realm of criminality. That's a realm of criminality. The president's advisors, like I'm saying, while not having a formal decision-making authority, they have significant influence on the president's decision and direction of his rule and direction of the country. Because they are the ones that sit with him every morning. So they can shape the understanding of the president, his issues, the direction of policies. They can also tell lies at Mwamba Tilefi, and the president unleashes his forces against such a person. So it's therefore very important that you set standards for these advisors. Is there a code of conduct? If there is a matter they are pursuing, is there a mechanism in which they can disclose private interest to prevent conflict of interest? Because you are dealing with public resources here. Whether it's recruitment, whether it's procurement, whether it's efficiency for projects, what is it? Do you have interest? Do you have shares? Is the owner of such a company your friend? Where are you pursuing? Why are you calling about payment? Why are you calling NRIFA that they should pay such a contractor? Are you going back to go and get paid? Is that call genuine that the contractor's site could be vacated and people in the province are complaining and you're trying to safeguard both jobs and the project? Or are you calling that the contractor be paid so that you can get a kickback? What is the purpose of such a call? We have seen presidential advisors obsessed with roles outside their defined mandate. And they've become procurement specialists, always calling about procurement or recruitment, or which tender is running under which agency, or which ministry, or which public office. So it's very important that you clarify the accountability structure in which these advisors operate. you define their tasks, you delineate their functions so that they are distinct from those of senior public servants, permanent secretaries, and that boundaries are set, that the advisors are not interfering with the professional work of this bureaucracy. Because for the president to appoint such a permanent secretary, he must have faith in such a senior officer. For the president to appoint such a senior person as, constitutional office holder, he must have faith and he must believe that they will deliver. There is no problem in following up. That is why you saw an office was created under State House called monitoring. Lucky Mulusa set up that office for purposes of monitoring and evaluation. He called it projects monitoring and evaluation, so that the State House, the president, can follow up on the projects. Remember, the president is political in nature. He has a calendar of 5 years. He wants his manifesto, he wants his vision implemented. So there is a genuine role that the president must play, but that fine balance, like I'm saying, must be struck. When President Hakainde Hichilema took over power, on August 24th in 2021, he began to establish his government. He was very slow, but he appointed ministers, he appointed advisors, he appointed constitutional officers, and he appointed heads of legislature and judiciary and state agencies. But it became very apparent that there were unseen forces that were wielding levers of state power. It was the Brentes Foundation and then Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. These are part of his advisors. They came in a murky way. At least for Tony Blair Institute, there is a MOU that was signed. For the Brentes Foundation and their presence at State House, no one knows their role. No one knows their direction, but we see the force of the vision that they push, under his office. From Prime Minister Tony Blair, who set up, who signed an agreement with Ministry of Finance, he's got embedded staff at State House and at Ministry of Finance. They've even set up some form of laboratory. In the past, we even condemned the setting up of such an economic laboratory run from the United Kingdom, where these unknown people have access to all our economic and other data and development data. Tony Blair, came with the widest mandate ever for a prime minister, I think since in the 18th, 19th century. He was in a hurry to deliver. And he found what we call Whitehall, which is like cabinet office, the bureaucracy, very challenging. He thought they were too slow. So he set up what he called the Prime Minister Delivery Unit. And it began to score because of efficiencies that were brought in, but it didn't take long. Because, the structures that are established by the Constitution are the ones with the mandate. It brought more problems than it brought solutions, more friction than it brought solutions, more difficulties and challenges. That as soon as Tony Blair left office, it was abolished in 2010. The current new prime minister, he admires Tony Blair. He set up some small role similar to the Presidential Delivery Unit, but not to the scale, standard, and structure that the previous Presidential Delivery Unit was set up. So Tony Blair, when he left office, he made this idea into a commercial venture. He comes to Africa and pushes African governments in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Ghana, in Zambia, that they should adopt this Presidential Delivery Unit. And sadly, if you don't subject these decisions to Parliament, to a wider process, you will never learn why the Presidential Delivery Unit failed or are failing. Have you localized it that it can deliver? What about the idea of bringing efficiency to your original delivery unit as prescribed by the Constitution, which is Cabinet Office? Why can't Cabinet Office and the entire team of civil service deliver? Why do you want to jump it by bringing a presidential delivery unit so that these kids can go and harass these senior people. You just clog, you bring more complications. And you see, for Tony Blair, he's been accused of nefarious activities. He wants interest of the mines that push him, these commercial interest. You bring this company from Middle East that they are supplying medicine. His interests are always marking. And Buhari, Nigerian president, defined him properly when he came and he wanted to set up a presidential delivery unit at Tony Blair, when I was a businesses, Leonce, and he rebuffed him, So the role of presidential advisors, I think, as I have bothered to define, taking and drawing best practices from the US, UK, Singapore, and others, is that they are better lined to their roles. If your system, the bureaucracy, is not working, why are you keeping secretary to cabinet if the system is not, and his deputies? If permanent secretaries are not delivering, because each ministry should have a delivery mechanism, timelines. We have this project in agriculture, in commerce, and finance, and we have a duty to deliver. Does it need State House to be pushing you? Why is a PS there? In fact, the PSs should be proactive by even, other than feeding their boss, the secretary to cabinet, can call State House and say, here is our report structure. This is what we've done. The projects are at this stage. The recruitments are at this stage. The economic activities in the province are at this stage. These are the hurdles and challenges we are facing. Without, the presidential advisors becoming predatory, bringing in corruption to these state agencies, without them overbearing and overlooking the roles of these professionals. Because what you do is you paralyze. They'll just leave you. At Wakatuma, you want to micromanage them. So they'll leave you. And then you see, 4 years has passed, you have done nothing. You have delivered nothing. And that's a challenge if you ignore the structure. Bureaucracy was designed to bring efficiency. Today, when you use the word bureaucracy, it means inefficiency. Something has gone wrong. You need to, to bring it to sense. Just a minute. I want to play that video. I can't find it. So you'll be able to call. This is Friday. We don't want to stay long. We want you to participate in this debate.
The job you held at State House, is it a 8 to 5 kind of job?
Well, it's a job which you're on call throughout. I used to get calls sometimes 01, 02. Sometimes I'd sit with the president to wake up to 01, 02. I never had my private life. It completely got cut off. My life rotates around the president. And because also he believed in me, I believed in him, he gave me a lot of opportunities to work with him, to be able to attend even meetings that are outside the normal working hours. He allowed me to attend even private dinners, which he had with his guests. So that really took away my private life. But with hindsight, it was a good exposure.
A long way. This party is a mature party. 23 years in opposition, resilient. We suffered the most brutality in this country. Now we are here. People think they can push us out easily.
So the president vowing that he will not be voted out because he spent 23 years in opposition and he doesn't want his party or himself to be removed. Well, Mr. President, if you deliver, you'll be a darling of the people of Zambia. If you end load shedding, you'll be a darling of the people of Zambia. If you reduce the cost of living, you'll be loved by our people. If you do not push tribal or regional politics, you'll be loved by our people. If you produce and deliver on the mandate and your manifesto, you'll be voted in by our people. It doesn't matter how long you've been in opposition, they may send you back. if you fail on those critical issues. Deliver jobs, deliver food on their table, deliver a better economy, stop borrowing, promote human rights, don't abuse human rights, allow professional entities and institutions to strengthen the people of Zambia. That's a key issue. That's why I laugh at people that say Zambia has no opposition, therefore President Hakainde Hichilema will go through. You are fooling yourselves. The biggest opposition in this country is the people of Zambia. It's not us. It's the people of Zambia who will determine who will be there. Even when Dr. Kaunda would go for an election with the frog began to get up to 13%. The frog. That's how dissatisfied our people were. They would rather vote for a frog than vote for Dr. Kaunda. So you have to be very careful. It's not a game for the opposition. It's a game for the people of Zambia. Please call. The number is there. Today we're discussing presidential advisors and their role. And we've drawn inference and examples from US, from UK, from Singapore, and from ourselves as government. What is provided for in the Constitution? Who runs government? Who is tasked by the Constitution to run government? It just can't be these powerful, unelected people to be the ones to run government. Brentes Foundation or Tony Blair Institute or Clayson Amasaka. No. The Zambian people elected President Hakainde Hichilema is the one to rule the country, together with requisite structure that the Constitution has provided for. His cabinet, his bureaucracy, which is led by a secretary to cabinet, and other wings of government, Speaker and National Assembly Parliament, the Judiciary, Chief Justice, and others, state agencies such as law enforcement agencies, and democratic institutions such as the ECZ. Together they run the country. So you can't have these unelected officials thinking that they can then, just overrun our people. No, it doesn't work like that. The people elected, not you, they elected the president. How he uses his time, like you've seen in Kenya, he can have 20 advisors or 3 advisors. Michael Sata had the leanest advisors. In fact, people don't remember anyone else beyond George Chela. Of course, he had Siame and others, but the point is, the president can choose a number of advisors. This one has the heaviest number of advisors we've ever seen. Other than the structured State House, which has been expanded, he has Brentes Foundation and he has Tony Blair Foundation, all part of the advisory. Dr. Kaunda had some foreign advisors at the beginning, but this came from I have to remember that South American country that helped with our bureaucracy because we didn't have trained Guyana. From Guyana, I think there was one who even was at State House even as late as the 90s. She was from Guyana because Guyana the British helped us with the professionals from Guyana to help establish our civil service. Just like we deployed our civil servants. Mkondo Lungu, the father to Muhabi Lungu, was chief of staff at State House in Namibia. I think Honorable Ane Osilungu, our former Chief Justice, became Chief Justice in Namibia. We went to run the civil service in Namibia. It is no more under those circumstances. Not under the circumstances that our brother is talking about. So please call. Friday is a short day. What is your contribution? What can you say about the matters under discussion here? I was trying to get Mabunga's video. I can't find them. I don't want to subvert my own broadcast. You can see, please call. The number is there, 097307. You can even send voice notes. Yes, you can send voice notes. This one has sent that, yes, the matter under Ministry of Health is important, but the DPP has also, Gilbert Perry, has asked the Economic and Financial Crimes Court to revive the honeybee case against former Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya and others on the ground that the trial court erred in law when it acquitted them before taking plea in the absence of the consent of the DPP to prosecute. So he's asking, someone has sent me that article that the DPP has requested that Dr. Chitalu Chilufya and others accused in that case are tried again. I think this is in light of the debate about the health care. This one says, Mwamba, I just want to share. +61 Yakwis, I don't know. Where is +61? Is it from China? I don't know. Mwamba, I just want to share that Zambia is heading nowhere under the UPND leadership. Why are we allowing all this ineptitude, this corruption to flourish? What the vice president stated recently, where she said, even if you vote us out, you will remain poor, cannot be accepted. Do we really have leaders who care? The number +61, I think that's coming from +61 could be China. Okay. Someone says, this is Yandi Mlenga. Ambassador, I've got some questions for you. Number one, as someone who's aspiring for public office in 2026, what specific measures will you put in place to ensure voter registration is accessible, transparent, and is free from interference and abuse, and that there is no suppression and manipulation? How are you going to ensure that there is no voter apathy? Number two, if you or your party of your choice is elected, will you tackle, number one, how will you tackle the rising cost of living? Okay, let me take this call. We can go back to what is written. It can't disappear. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yeah, this is Daka. I'm calling from Osaka.
Yes, Mr. Daka. Very well. Please make your contributions.
Yes, my contribution, Mr. Mwamba, is you have brought out a lot of things and very, 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 very educative program indeed. I remember when you were saying about the bureaucracy and the staff at the State House. I remember very, very, very well, vividly.
Yeah.
When Mr. Sata came into power and he tried to bulldoze his agenda in the civil service. And I remember Mr. Sata also complaining to say, no, it's not easy to bulldoze your program or your agenda in the civil service, especially when you are not in tandem with the civil servant. And for sure, we appreciate it. And Mr. Sata being Mr. Sata and what he was and how he had been in government, he understood and he knew. And he really adjusted.
Yeah.
And for sure, civil service is not a place or an institution where you can just come in and give instructions without on paper, just stable instruction. It doesn't work out like that. And if you are doing like that, obviously then you are breeding corruption. And this is what we have been saying. And the biggest problem is politicians in Zambia. They never learn.
Yeah.
I don't know where this thing comes from. Politicians never learn. These people are here. The same things they used to condemn and talk about and what, they're doing exactly the same, if not times 5.
Yeah.
And as Zambia now, we remain adamant and say, but people, we removed these people because of this thing. Our friends were saying, no, they will come and improve. Now they are doing exactly the same and even worse.
Yeah.
When we go to pilferage, when we go to corruption, when we go to cannibalism and everything, they're exactly doing the same. If not worse.
Yeah.
So governance is, you need to understand. You need to understand. Governance means zero. It's having a mind and a big heart. Yeah. But when you try to bulldoze and you want to give instructions, then it becomes something else. Because instruction, you only receive instruction when there is something that someone wants to benefit. Then they will give instructions. And it's very unfortunate that we have just loaded the state of these advisors from foreign land who doesn't even understand the dynamics of Zambian politics and Zambian way of life to come and take over government and the state house and start making advice and doing this. It's very unfortunate. Anyway, it's a good program. Continue with your good work. Those who are not listening and those who are not following this program, there is a lot that you can learn from this program. But unfortunately, people are still not listening to this program. And when the whip start falling on them, they'll say we didn't know. These are the programs to listen to, especially for civil servants. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwamba.
Thank you.
We are well aware that what is going on here? What is going on here? This is not a police state, for God's sake. What is going on? You can see there's certain nonsense that they have to bear. This is not right. This is definitely not right. We cannot be subjected to this. It's unacceptable. We are living in a one-party state. This cannot be acceptable. Under no right can this be acceptable. We refuse to accept it.
And this is the state which goes around the world claiming that it is.
What is going on here? What is the problem? What is going on here? It's not a police state, for God's sake.
That we have to bear. This is the state which goes around the world claiming that it is a state which does guarantee the freedom of education. And a mere poster which is not suggesting violence, which is not suggesting anything wrong, which is like the one I was holding, was clearly saying, allow me to. So the state is saying it is not going to allow anybody to speak because they are saying that the poster I had is so offensive that they need to send a squadron of policemen to come and forcibly take it and take it away.
See the number of police officers present here. What crime is being committed here? Who is being killed here? Who is being robbed here? Is this the way to...
A lawyer in Uganda has gone to court to challenge what he says is a feudal-like state run by family dynasty. The case centers on the high positions held by the relatives of President Yoweri Museveni. Lawyer Gawaya Tegule is challenging the constitutional legitimacy of the appointments. Museveni's wife, Janet Museveni, is education minister. His son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, is commander of Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF, and his brother, General Salim Saleh, an influential figure in Uganda. In his petition to the Constitutional Court, Tegule argues that their appointments have created a feudal-like state run by family dynasty. Many Ugandans have spoken out against the case and defended Museveni's constitutional authority as president to appoint individuals he deems fit for government positions, regardless of family ties.
Yeah, I had to play the video at court premises today where the police confiscated posters at the court premises, and this was following the imprisonment of Maureen Mabonga, the MP from Mfue, on so-called seditious practices. As I'm waiting for the phone calls, let me just take the messages, and you can send a voice note if you wish. We can play it. This one says, Your Excellency, please continue lobbying for Projects 2026. It excited us. the more you talk about it, the more people will take it seriously. Here is my Ngwe. He says, on taxes, expatriates should pay more than 15%, but Zambians should pay less than 15%. There's a vision for decades, a vision for generation we've been talking about here called Project 2026. So although we have this topic, this gentleman has responded. So he says he loves our proposal for 15% taxes, but foreigners should pay more. That government should form state-owned enterprises that should lead in value addition in all sectors from agriculture to mining, and that way JRZ to give direction. Then the presidency needs to be stripped of power, and institutions, of democracy must be strengthened. Then he says we need a national agenda where all political parties should agree to, they should sign to, and that such better plans then becomes the agenda that even if a government changed, they will not abandon such a national view. Thank you very much for those views. You are welcome to this. This voice note is not opening. I don't know what format it was sent under. Yeah, but today we're discussing the role of presidential affairs, presidential advisors. Under State House, there's a structure that is run by principal private secretary, then there are special assistants to the president, then there are chiefs, then there are chief analysts, there's a PS, there's that structure that runs like that. Now we are speaking like this because the man in charge of the press, Clayson Hamasaka, who's a chief communications specialist at State House, issued a statement where he said, no, my dear brother Lawrence Mwananyanda had a right to call ZAMSA. Remember, ZAMSA former director general says there was interference in procurement at ZAMSA, and that would receive this call from State House staff. And Clayson Hamasaka was justifying that that's normal. I have bothered to elaborate that that's an area of criminality, especially if you want to interfere, because these institutions respond to constitutional mandate. In many cases, they are sworn officers. And in many cases, their positions are provided for in the Constitution. Some agencies like ZAMSA are an act of law. The Director General is board are properly defined, and the reporting structure is not to State House. It is to the board. So when you are breaching that, you're not just breaching a good governance issue. You must have good reason why you should call an entity like that directly. What about his supervisors, like the board chair or the Ministry of Health to do the supervision for you? Why would you call a district commissioner directly? Why don't you call the PS or the minister? I think the reporting structures defined by our constitution and our bureaucracy must be respected. Otherwise, you are in the realm of criminality. So you ought to be very, very careful. There's some notes I put just a minute that I thought were very good as we begin, as I wait for your calls or your messages. Please go, okay? Yeah. The emergence of dictatorship in our country, the emergence of tyranny in our country is not African. It's not African. If you look at, if you are a student of history like myself, if you look at both ancient and modern empires in Africa, they hated tyranny, they hated dictatorship, they hated, structures that would control them. In fact, you have two types of governments in Africa. Others didn't have even chiefs, I think and those that had chiefs were highly regulated. The chief couldn't make his decision alone. He had to have indunas. So if you study with our governance system, traditional governance system, either ancient or current, we run more on a confederacy. The chief had indunas and in some cases had semi or autonomous sub-chiefdoms or sub-kingdoms. So you can see that they didn't like this overbearing tyranny over them, because I've seen the lie that our presidents act like chiefs. Chiefs had advisors, had indunas. They couldn't make a decision. The confederacy is highly respected. In many cases, there is a devolution and decentralization mechanism. I can give you my own, like Mwinelu Wemba, who's a paramount chief, who's a king of the Bemba people. He runs a confederacy system. He has chiefs, on one side led by Senior Chief Mwamba, on the others in Chinsali led by Senior Chief Nkula, and they have Chiefs Chikwanda, this side Nkole Mfumu and others. And the autonomy is respected, and the king doesn't make decisions alone. They have to sit in council called Ilamfia, where they make the decisions. And if there is, for example, the chief has died, there is another set of group of people that will elect a chief. So this lie that our presidents in Africa behaving like kings or chiefs is not in our system. Even when you look at an absolute monarchy like the one in Eswatini, you will see how the royal family makes decisions, not the king alone. So let's not compare this issue of dictatorship and tyranny to Africa. The Lozis, on the other side, if they're similar, the Litunga rules in council with indunas, and he has chiefs in Sesheke, in Mwandi, in Lukulu, where they are either ambassadors or they are sub-chiefs. He co-rules the kingdoms with them in consultation and in concurrence. So this habit of saying, no, our chiefs, they are behaving like chiefs. No. If you wish to behave like chiefs, you'll be consultative, you will respect institutions, you will respect autonomy, you will not impose your will. So this issue of presidential advisors thinking they are ruling with the king and chief and they can do whatever they want, our chiefs have a structure that is properly respected. Yeah, I thought I could make that issue because we have other tribes. I think the Tongas do not have really a titular king. We have a titular king. The Lozis have a titular king. The Tongas do not have a titular king. They are highly, their power is highly decentralized, highly devolutionarized. For us, power could be at the center, but there are layers of structures that ensures that the king doesn't rule on his own. Oh, sorry, Ndelanda son, I've missed this call. I'm sorry. You can call. I'm back on the line. You can make that call. Let's see if there are any messages that have been sent. Okay. Yes, there's a call from +97. I don't know where 97 is. He says, Ambassador Mwamba, we need people that mean well for the people of Zambia. Ukwikata ba opposition ukula bakake fibale bakaka kwati nbaka bolala awe Kelvin Mutalala Yaskodi says Napuisha. I agree with you. The dictatorship, I've just demonstrated that the dictatorship is alien. In fact, when you had a dictator for a king, the structures planned to remove such a king. They wanted the king that was kind, the king that placed the people as priority. Every time you had the cruel king, his ending was terrible. Whether it's in the Bible or whether it's in our kingdom, the people should be a primary focus all the time. This one says, Ambassador, I've nowhere to sleep, please help. kunuko America na la kwa fashantu alamo na okay, I'll look at the number later. This is what we are talking about. It's so real how our people are suffering. Let me just go briefly to Facebook to see if there are comments that I might attend to. Okay, Loti Mtalimanja Daka says, Ambassador, please school these good for nothing failures. They don't know what they're doing. Those with ears, let them listen. You are good at what you do. Ignorance is not a defense. The law doesn't come and stay. Please listen to Ambassador Mwamba. He is teaching you. Ambassador Mwamba, you're always the darling of the moment. You blend wisdom, intellect, and your erudition is totally unmatched. Thank you very much. Big man, just speak proactively for Zambian citizen people, not for yourself, because you need to sit okay. Or because I'm sitting okay. No, I think we try to speak for our people. I think that's why we are here. We bother to speak for our people and to ensure that is that Mr. Marbo from Italy?
Yes, Your Honor, Your Honor, Honorable Ambassador.
Mkwai Marbo from Italy is a regular caller. We missed you last week. Thank you for your participation. Please make your contributions.
Last week, tied up. Otherwise, I tuned in. I was listening. I just couldn't call.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Anyway, I hope you are well, Ambassador, first of all.
No, the Lord is keeping us. We are gracious and we are grateful.
We're happy to hear this. You know, there's a very distinguished community member here who is a priest. He really worked very hard campaigning for the ruling party now.
Mm-hmm.
And he really lives in a lot of regret now.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to argue those days because of the policies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling him, because he often calls me and we talk about what's going wrong. And I told him that it will even get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there is even no need to try to decampaign the ruling party. They have that ability themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we say.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ambassador, for me, my contribution today is also just an ample reminder to you, Tila. Things will really go wrong so that when Zambia we learn. Point out
Mm-hmm.
Because what's in their hearts, deep down, the visceral feelings of the people on top are not people-centric, to be honest.
Yeah.
When people are suffering, with basic things, no, you should work hard. You should do this. If when we were lacking kawunga or cooking oil, we used to do this and that. That kind of mockery. 21st century doing that. That's what this is, like old school. And if you should have pro-East, pro-West, Ambassador, we should avoid it. We should be Pan-Africanists. You can't. See, even these immigrants, these raft, these West Africans who come to Europe, when you see that, it's very sad to see your own people drowning in the Mediterranean for nothing. But then those who came here by plane, because we're from Zambia, we come by plane, you feel like you are better because you didn't have that plight. And I think we are awakening as a people, even as a country, we are awakening. But I just wanted to say, let this teach Ambassador. Thank you.
Now, Wamabo, who's a president of Zambians living in Italy, is not giving us hope. He says things will go bad, worse than they are. Pakta bantu besu beluke, pakta bantu besu bamonati bali lufyanya. I pray for a better Zambia. I think that we shouldn't be in the space we are. We shouldn't have the kind of debt we have. We shouldn't have the kind of corruption we have. I pray that we shouldn't have the troubles that the country is currently plagued with. I believe that it's just an issue of leadership. It doesn't make sense. Look at Singapore. Singapore is far richer than its colonizers. Can you imagine? Singapore is richer than its colonizers. Singapore was a province under Malaysia. Now its GDP is 50% more than Malaysia. UK, Singapore is far richer, than the United Kingdom. If when I thought to land, we colonized the British, Albanese would have risen above that. They're even doing better. China was once colonized by Japan, was invaded by the British, remember, and by the Portuguese. For the British, after the wars with the British, they even carved out, land, they carved out territory of Hong Kong. Today, where is China compared to Britain? China is now the second largest economy in the world. It has lifted 500 million people out of poverty in a period of 30 years, not in a century, not where. And it didn't have like the Marshall Plan where the US took money to Europe to rebuild Europe after the war. It didn't have such a Marshall Plan. It built China from the scratch. It has now the best technology. It has the largest infrastructure for rail. It's building its own planes. And like I said, it has lifted 500 million people out of poverty. So, Wamabo, I agree with you. It requires revolutionary thinking. We have to think differently. If you have a leadership that believe in the IMF, they believe only the IMF will emancipate you, and the IMF locks you for 5 years to follow Tuma Plan Tuabo, dangling a $1.5 billion, you go nowhere. If you think that that foreign investor will come and rescue our country, you will go nowhere. Until you build your own people, your own economy owned by your own people, then we will head somewhere. If you spend time pursuing your political opponents, locking up your political opponents, if you spend resources, infrastructure, instead of using the intelligence and the police for better security, that our country can have a 24-hour economy, that our country can be a net exporter of all these goods, works, and services to the region. Instead of deploying this resource we have, you are deploying it on the opposition who go nowhere. So we have very livid experiences that we can draw from experiences and make our country better. That's why you'll have these presidential advisors who should be drawing the best practices. Every morning when they go to see the president, they should not be talking about Emmanuel Mwamba. They should be saying, Mr. President, this is what Singapore has done. Singapore was under a colony. It was a province of Malaysia. Its economy is now double the GDP of Malaysia. Malaysia has minerals. It has agricultural land. Malaysia has even a huge population. So can Singapore, a small country under a patch of land with no mineral resources, beat Malaysia? Imagine if you are having such a kind of discussion every morning with the president. You take a story of Nigeria and Saudi Arabia to the president. Mr. President, Nigeria had far better oil reserves before Saudi Arabia discovered it. Today, Nigeria remains a poor country, while Saudi Arabia is now, in the forefront. It's one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Nigeria is a producer of oil. It's the largest producer of oil in Africa. Saudi Arabia is the largest producer of oil in the world. Look at the disparities and the economies. What's the difference there? What's the difference there? It's just a leadership issue. Nothing. There is efficiency in Saudi Arabia. They are refining capacity, supplying the world. In Nigeria, they are fighting. In Nigeria, they are clogging. They are tampering with the pipelines. They are vandalizing. They are setting up small pipelines from the main pipeline. Then there is corruption, where perpetually they have to import Dangote, who's so progressive, has set up one of the largest refinery. But for raw material, he has to import. Yet Nigeria is the largest supplier of, or largest producer of oil in Africa. For me, that's a kind of discussions we should be having in our country. Not a discussion we have of who should be arrested. Every time these guys speak, they are speaking about who should be arrested, who should be locked up. You spend so much. Imagine the amount of time the president spent to craft these new repressive laws. His time is not productive. But chief advisor to him, who's the minister of finance, spends his entire time in Washington all the time. Not vale lomba, vale fuendarama. You're not quite a drought. You know, drought didn't affect the entire country. We had one of the worst drought in 2015. We didn't go begging. Why? Because the regions that had rain, Eastern Province, Muchinga, Northern, Northwestern Province, and parts of Copper Belt and Luapula, fed the country, pushed into the deficit. In fact, if you look at the statistics of 2015, they are remarkable, because that was one of the worst drought we had in 35 years. But we had the bumper harvest, double what we had in 2013 and 2014, 2.7 million. How was it done? Is if you distribute fertilizer, you support your farmers, even if the drought comes, it would usually affect the southern part of our country, Western Province, parts of Central Province, parts of Southern Province, but the rest of the country remains green and heavy with rain. And if you've given them all these requisites, in the midst of the crisis, you'll have a bumper harvest like we had in the 2015 a drought season when we experienced the worst drought. Bamsoko tuane venachila wishkuba lomba fear. How will we develop? That's Project 2026 that we talk about. So Mwantu Wakwalesa, let me take if there are any other calls. Oh, I've missed the call again. I'm so sorry. Okay, this man says he's calling from UK. Yeah, he says, I'm unable to call because I'm on the train, but I'm listening. Our second liberation struggle is 2026. President Hakainde Hichilema must fall. The draconian laws he has brought in the country must be repealed by the new government. Twapenga ba Mwamba, Twapenga. So thank you very much. So there's a gentleman from who's on the train. He says he's listening in. He can't call because he's with people on the train. But those are his views. Thank you very much. Someone sent a voice note, but it hasn't opened. This one says, Ambassador, please watch out the issuance of NRCs. There's something funny happening. They are issuing. Some are just paying 200 kwacha and they're being given NRCs. Is anyone following up on this? They are saying machines are not working. And he says he witnessed somewhere near Optic Hospital. He says there's a center there. They were issuing NRCs to foreigners. Please, Ambassador, get people to follow up. We want to acquire. So this is what I talked about the other day with the opposition. That we are lamenting, we are crying, but there are practical things we must do. The issuances of NRC, issuances of voters card must be a primary program for progressive civil society and NGOs and political parties. It cannot be left to its whims. There's something happening and there are a lot of messages by our people expressing those concerns. What are we doing as the opposition on that? Thank you very much, my brother. Okay. I think we have exhausted our discussion. I said I'll just be here for 1 hour, 30 minutes. We're discussing the role of presidential advisors. What is their role? What's their role in relation to the structure of government? How does the president govern? What is the remit and limits of presidential advisors? We've demonstrated best practices from the UK, US, Singapore, and others. We've also drawn inference from Zambia itself, and we took time to ask the advisors, I think, to stay in their lane. You are advisors. Advise that wayward president. Give him advice. Maybe you are too preoccupied doing everything else other than giving him advice. Maybe that's why he's wayward. That's why he's failing. Help him. A leader is as good as his aid. God bless you. God bless our country. Until we have another program next time, shalom, shalom.